Several generations of celebrated heroes within the various Irish kingdoms eventually expelled the invaders, and though these kings continued to vie for supremacy among themselves, the island nevertheless prospered with expanding trade and fresh political links to the European mainland. The petty squabbles and landgrabs that characterised the nobility throughout feudal Europe eventually led to petitions by embattled warlords for aid from new trade partners and friends abroad. Marriage alliances were made, and when King Dermott MacMurrough, King of Leinster, regained his lost kingdom with the help of his Norman son-in-law, Richard Strongbow de Clare, he happily declared him his sole heir. Now, this made Norman English King, Henry II, an empire builder extraordinaire, somewhat concerned that a minnow like Strongbow might have the audacity to declare himself a rival Norman king. So, he did the only reasonable thing one could do in those days: invade, and take the whole place for yourself, neighbours included. Which he promptly did in 1171, with the blessing of the Pope, Adrian the IV, an Englishman I might add, who wanted to bring the Irish Church under his complete control. Mind you, Henry was still carrying the stigma of bumping off Archbishop Thomas Beckett, so if handing over the entire Church of Ireland was going to buy him some credit with the new pontiff, all the better. Thus, Henry became the first English king to set foot in Ireland, and with his own Norman troops, he now took much of the rest of the island while they were at it, the king subsequently naming his younger son John as Lord of Hibernia. Poor old Henry unfortunately ended up having what you might call some significant family problems. So, when John, the archetypal bad guy who gave Robin Hood so much grief, unexpectedly became King of England in 1199, the lordship of Ireland now fell directly under the English crown. And that's where all the trouble began. And I don't mean just for Ireland. This bloke was such a rascal that his own barons eventually bailed him up at knife point to sign a document limiting the monarch's absolute powers. The precedent that this document, the Magna Carta, set would unleash a process of democratization that would change the face of Europe forever, though it would certainly have its fair share of selectivity, reversals, and interruptions along the way. But for the Irish at least, it was going to be a long, dark struggle back to the light of self-determination.